This video is going to talk about how to use live streams as a useful addition to your study routine. This is another form of content similar to training videos, but I think even less often taken advantage of for their true value. I think that live streams have this weird space in between being instructional and being entertainment. And for that reason, a lot of people are not using them as a study tool. They're using them as maybe a way to wind down or a way to keep themselves engaged with the poker community. And those are all valid ways to enjoy live streams. I just want to talk in this video about how to approach live streams from a strategic point of view and use it to improve your game. So the benefits of live streams, and I'm mostly thinking about tournament final table live streams, but this could also apply to the cash game streams that you see from Live at the Bike or Hustler. It's important, I think, to think about matching this to the type of game that you're actually preparing for. So in some cases, like watching the Hustler stream is often not going to be the same as the 5-10 game at the Bellagio, but it does have some bearing on the live cash game community. Whereas high roller tournaments streaming their final tables might not have a perfect, they might not be the best study tool for someone who's playing the WSOP circuit main events. But you could watch the WPT final tables, for example, as a way to study for WSOP circuit. So a little bit of startup analysis of what stream is going to help your game is important here. And that's just kind of an implicit assumption that I've made when talking about using this for study. So with that out of the way, the strengths I see in live streams is that you're looking at expert hole cards, or at least today's hole cards from whoever it is that is playing in those games. And that's also why I've written current strategies here. So the drawback in some cases of training content is that the strategies can be old, or the videos themselves can literally be old. Obviously, any live stream recording could be from 3 years ago, 5 years ago. Watching Poker After Dark from 15 years ago is maybe not the best way to study for live cash today. But if the plan is to study, you can watch the most recent games and you can focus on the experts that you personally want to emulate. This is going to be one of my recommendations at the end, but thinking of the people you see in a live stream as mentors, or I think I call them virtual heroes, is the corollary to thinking of your training site producer, your training content producer, as a virtual coach. So I'll continue to talk about that more at the end of the video. The other strengths of live streams is that because they're not edited, or very often they're not edited down, that means that they allow for very detail-oriented study. You get to watch every fold, you get to watch every open raise and take it, and this provides a lot more opportunities for analysis of routine decision making, which is why I'm marking this as a potential for skills training. If you watch a live stream from start to finish and you focus on one individual player throughout that stream, you have the opportunity to see all the, you might call them the intangible skills that often don't get highlighted in a training video or in a highlight reel. So looking for small pots, looking for somewhat routine decisions, the boring stuff, as I've emphasized in other videos, is really what makes a great player. So live streams offer you an opportunity to see that information. And very often these players, like the true experts, do not want to be sharing that information, but either because of the quality of the cash game or because of the notoriety of the final table, they've signed an agreement to share their hole cards. So as a result, you, the viewer, get to benefit from that information. Now, certainly the biggest weakness of live streams is how time consuming they are. And similar to training site videos, there's concerns with the whole process here being self-guided and the information being untargeted. So generally speaking, my advice is going to be the same here. If you come into a live stream with a plan, you can find ways to make the time spent more valuable, but a lot of this happens before you sit down to watch. So if you are sitting down to watch a live stream, volume up, feet kicked up with your headphones on, that's great. But what you're doing is you're taking in entertainment. And if you want to make a live stream into a study session, then you need to come in with a plan that I'm going to outline at the end. But it's okay to consume live streams for both reasons. I do think that taking in poker content is a good way to stay involved in poker, and it can help advance your strategy in some ways. But the gains when using it this way, when just kind of kicking back and taking in as designed, it's designed for entertainment, and it's very unlikely to make large strategic improvements to your game. So the pitfalls that I want to steer away from here, number one is passive viewing. I've talked about this before with the training videos. If you don't engage in some way or show up with a plan, then you're very unlikely to take away any educational outcomes from this. This is a bit tongue-in-cheek to say commentator coaching is a pitfall, but what I mean by this is the audio of live streams, again, are very often designed for entertainment. So the commentators who come onto live streams sometimes are there for strategic analysis and sometimes are qualified to be doing so. But very often you're getting a lower quality educational product than you would get from a training site. And you're getting an even lower quality product than you would from a coach. So to treat a commentator as a coach would just be like a logical mistake, I think. And you need to understand that for the most part, the reason the commentators are there is to engage the viewer and to make what is otherwise a fairly slow production more entertaining. And some of that is going to be strategic, but again, you want to choose your coaches, right? You don't want to, just because you enjoy this particular live stream, you don't want to passively assume whoever's commentating that day as your new coach for that day. So separating those and understanding who you want to take information in from is an important decision to make before you accidentally let the commentator become your coach. These last 2 points are really key, and it goes back to what I said were the strengths of live streams, is that you get to see everything. And a very important part of the information you get in a live stream is watching what people fold and watching what happens in small, uninteresting pots. So again, this is the difference between studying and entertainment. If you're just waiting for big pots to happen and you're waiting for fireworks, and then once those fireworks come, you jump into analysis, you're getting such a small piece of what you could be getting if you were paying attention to the entire game. And the folded cards, especially, like the skill of folding is not to be underrated. And I do think there's a tendency for anyone who watches live streams for entertainment to end up thinking that they need to play quite loose, quite aggressive, quite splashy, because they overlook the patience or the tight play situations that some of these experts display, because it's easier just to watch all the action. And the players who give all the action do not tend to be the best players in those games. So you're, subconsciously or not, you're idolizing the weaker players in the game, and the strategy that you're taking away from it is going to be a losing one. So this means we can put together some best practices to avoid those pitfalls. The number one thing, and this is going to be boring, but this is going to be a study-minded approach instead of an entertainment approach, is to mute the commentary, to turn up the speed as high as you want and focus on all of the information that the cards are giving you. Now, I think to make this more engaging or even just easier is to choose a virtual hero. So this is what I talked about at the beginning. There's going to be a lot of information there. And if you try to take in, let's say it's an 8-handed final table, if you try to learn from every decision that every player makes, it's going to be too overwhelming. And it's also going to be conflicting because they're not all going to play with the same approach. So having someone who's your virtual mentor, or in this, like, the idea being that you are trying to learn from their style or from their expertise, now you can narrow your focus when you're watching the replay, and you can take note of what that particular expert is trying to accomplish at the table. Every bit of their strategy is on display, so you can see what they're folding, what they're 3-betting, what they're open raising, what they're choosing to play aggressively post-flop, what they're choosing to play passively post-flop, against who they're doing that, in what strategic situations, if it's a tournament, how they approach the prize pool, how they approach the stack distribution. Detail-oriented notes on one specific player are going to take you a really long way in getting the most out of a live stream. And feel free to choose anyone, right? I don't think it's that important who you've chosen, as long as you've chosen someone who you believe to be reputable and worth emulating. And whatever style makes sense for you, it's just like coaches with training sites. You can always choose to change. There's so much information, and there's so many live streams, especially in tournament play, where you could choose one of 30 or 40 different players who would all be incredible, and you could get enough whole card information from those players to build a full list of their strategy, or a full, note document of their strategy. So I don't think you should get too hung up on who it is. Just take someone that makes sense to you, start going through this process, and if it turns out you're not liking their style once you see it written out, then you can switch to someone else. Now, this kind of leads into building a study plan. I think that the goal is to realize, okay, this person who I idolize, who is winning in the game, hopefully, if not, you might want to choose a different hero. What is it that they're doing? I've outlined what I'm seeing them do. I've outlined what's different about their approach from my own. Now I've identified areas to work on. So this leads into a study plan, and this is part of adapting the way that you can go about the process in this course. I've given you an evaluation to figure out what it is that you want to work on, but it's not going to work for everybody. And depending on whether you're an online player, live player, tournament player, cash player, there's going to be little things that are different that don't necessarily fit the mold. And I understand that my coaching method doesn't line up with everyone, even if you've bought this course. So trying to find other resources like a virtual hero or a virtual coach on a training site and using their methods to guide your future study is another great way. Just to keep you on track in any way is going to be better than working aimlessly. So hopefully that gives you some ideas for how to take advantage of this format. And instead of watching live streams for strictly for entertainment, you can start to use them as part of your study routine.